Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. AB here, along with Jack. We are the Stream Catchers. Jack, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing real good. How are you?
Feeling good, feeling great. Ready to talk about episode 3 of Moon Knight. How about you?
I'm ready. Let's do it. You got quick hits for us?
I've got quick hits. Thanks, folks, for tuning in. We're going to jump into quick hits and then have a very spoilery discussion on the episode. So, spoiler warning ahead. Our episode opens up with Layla getting her passport, where we learn she is from Egypt and her father died on an archaeological dig. Marc is chasing followers of Harrow through Giza as they fight. Marc blacks in and out, hinting at a third identity. After killing the followers, Marc and Khonshu discuss what to do. Khonshu decides to get the other gods involved, so he creates an eclipse to get their attention. There's a trial in the Great Pyramid at Giza in front of the avatars of the other gods. Harrow is brought in and convinces the gods he is harmless. Marc and Layla reunite and begin searching the black market for a sarcophagus, hoping to find clues to Ahmet's tomb. This leads them to the home of Anton Mogart. Harrow also joins, teasing a secret Marc is keeping from Layla. Marc breaks out the suit and defeats Anton's bodyguards as he, Steven, and Layla escape with the map to Ahmet's tomb. Marc gives control of the body back to Steven, who learns that the map is a map of the stars, but from thousands of years ago. Khonshu turns back the skies to that night as the other gods imprison him, leaving Steven unconscious. Jack, what did you think of episode 3 of Moon Knight? How do you feel about the show halfway through?
I think that this one, this was a good one. This was a really good one. Maybe my favorite one altogether, and it was the one with Marc as the leading character. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. What do you think as far as comparing it to the other two?
I did feel that this was the strongest one. This one felt like they were just jumping right in, and we got a lot of action. We got some more clues to where they're itching towards. We'll definitely talk about that for sure. I liked how much Khonshu we got, actually. I'm really growing to like that character and what he brings to the show. Harrow, to me, is still one of the best villains I think that we've seen in the MCU. Isaac has been phenomenal. I think that he's obviously carrying the show, and to see him switch between Steven and Marc, eventually this third identity, as well as we get to see him portray Khonshu taking over his body in that trial. I just think that his character work has been second to none, top tier of the MCU that we've seen all the way back to 2008. He is by far one of the best character workers we've seen so far. And I think that this episode was a lot of fun. I think that they did a lot. There were a few things that I was a little about, but for the most part, I think that they gave me a good episode. I'm looking forward to next week, and I'm starting to get more invested into where they're going with these characters.
Yeah, I agree. Oscar Isaac has really gotten to showcase his acting chops. I haven't really seen him in a whole lot of things. X-Men Apocalypse and Star Wars are kind of the only things that come to mind right now. But this is his strongest performance of those, and I agree about the character choices. The characters are being more. They're finally starting to loosen up with the secrets. We're learning a little bit about Layla'S backstory, which is way more exciting than I figured. I thought that. I kind of thought the main mystery would be unraveling, Khonshu's relationship with Marc, Marc's character in general, and then probably either Harrow and Khonshu's past, or Ammit. So it's good to see. It's good to see that they've got interesting things brewing with Layla'S backstory.
For sure. Yeah, they're definitely weaving us in and out of a lot of characters here. It makes me a little nervous that we're going to introduce a third identity and get some backstory on that. But I think that they'll handle it well. And I think that so far they have handled both Marc and Steven very well. And just a real quick aside for Oscar Isaac. If you're looking for an Oscar Isaac movie, he was recently in Dune. If you haven't seen that yet, you should. It's really good.
Oh, yeah.
And then I saw his movie he did last year with I think Tiffany Haddish is in it. It's called The Card Counter. It's a Scorsese movie. It's really, really good. I definitely would recommend it. He's brilliant in that as well.
Writing it down.
So, but yeah, I think that let's talk about Layla, because we open up we are introduced to this. She's actually from Egypt. We get to see her actually act away from all of this. And then, of course, we learn that Marc is keeping a little bit of a secret from her. We know that her father rather, was an archaeologist, died on an archaeological dig. We also learned a few episodes ago that Marc may or may not have murdered somebody on an archaeological dig. Most people are able to put two and two together. It does seem that they are implying that he murdered her father or has knowledge of the murder of her father, and he's kind of keeping that from her. Did you catch any of that? Do you have anything on that?
Well, it has to be one of the two, right? Because Harrow said that that Layla's dad was murdered. So, I mean, he obviously knows more about it than Layla does. It kind of seems, and they're definitely pushing it. You know, they're hinting at Marc knowing more than he's saying too, which is exciting. I hope that this doesn't split Marc and Layla, even though they are a little split already. I just hope it doesn't split them prematurely in the show, because I like them working as a team. I think that they make a really fun and exciting team.
I do. I think that they do make a pretty good team. And I think that the dynamic that you're seeing with Layla and Marc, along with the dynamic you're seeing with Layla and Steven, I think both dynamics really work. And it's just really unique, because I think that not only is Oscar Isaac able to play both characters so well, but she's also able to play off of both characters so well. And it feels like she's not just treating each one like the same. She doesn't treat Steven the way she treats Marc, and vice versa. And I think that the acting really has been well done in this show.
Yeah. Well, she needs to have a specific relationship with Steven that is separate. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and she's also just now learning of Steven and figuring out kind of how that interaction works. And obviously there's a little bit of a tease that something between them more romantically. So we'll see where that develops and unfolds and how that's going to work. I don't know how they'll manage that moving forward, but I do feel like I have a couple of theories on what this thing could be, as far as the death of her father and Marc's or someone's connection to it. I think that the obvious one is he murdered her. I think that one is murdered him, rather. That one to me is the least likely. He doesn't seem like the murdering type. And I think that when you go back to when Steven found out about the murder, he said, that's not what you think it was. So that tells me that maybe Layla's father is actually evil, and Marc had to fight him off. And in that fight off, he accidentally killed him. Because there's also a point in the episode where they're having that conversation. I believe it was on the boat, where he's talking about how he used to be able to keep Steven under control, but up until recently he hasn't. And she wanted him to elaborate on that, but he didn't. So it would imply that maybe that's connected to it. I have another theory that I'll get to in a minute on that. I want to stick with the father thing. I also think that possibly maybe this third identity murdered her father. And maybe there is some evil ties that he's got going on in there. That's why this third identity murdered him. And Steven is trying to keep him at bay. But then he also doesn't seem to know about this third identity. So that doesn't seem likely either.
I wonder if the this third identity and Steven came into existence at the same time.
Possibly. I really am curious to see how they are going to handle that, because I almost feel like there is this traumatic event that happened that really split his mind, that he's trying to block that out, and that's really where Steven was born. Steven and or this third identity. And I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with this third identity, because if you know about Moon Knight's backstory, even a shred of it, you know that there are three identities: Stephen Grant, Marc Spector, and Jake Lockley, who, of course, we've got Marc and Steven, although this Steven is different from the one in the comics. But Jake Lockley is a cab driver that has information on the street level happenings of the city. And they're implying that this guy has a darker side to him than that. So,
even darker than Marc. Yeah,
exactly. Right. He's obviously not afraid to kill. because
Hmm.
when Marc was chasing those guys, he was surprised. Like, Steven, what are you doing? He was surprised that they were murdered and didn't
Right.
seem to want that kid to die either. So they're really trying to hold our hands here and walk us to this thought that Marc is not a bad guy, just a mercenary that does
Yeah.
bad things from time to time. But there's this third personality here that is maybe a darker, more vicious person.
Yeah. I mean, we still have the same problems, that we had in the first and second episode, where we still haven't gotten a flashback. And I feel like that is going to answer so many questions and put so much into perspective.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
as far as sticking back with the Layla'S backstory and everything, I think that the father being murdered is probably the most important thing that they alluded to with her backstory. But they also said a few. I mean, they also presented a few other things. They introduced Mr. Mogart, this character who is he's decided that he feels responsible for preservation of these artifacts, which is cool, I guess. The collector on Earth, that's neat. But even more interesting is that she has ties to Madripoor.
I caught that too. I thought that was really cool that they mentioned Madripoor, just because it's the first mention that we've really had of it since Falcon Winter Soldier, which maybe would allude to, we know the power broker does dealings on Madripoor, so maybe she has ties to the power broker, or
Maybe.
maybe she has ties to Val. Who knows? This Anton Mogart guy, in the comics, he is actually, that's his name, but he's also Midnight Man, who is a thief who steals at midnight every time. That's his thing. It's his theme. And
Okay.
he is a Moon Knight, I guess, villain, for lack of a better term. First appearance, Moon Knight #3, back all the way in 1981.
No
So
kidding. Here he is in
yeah,
episode
here he
3.
is, episode
Wow,
3.
look at that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the guy that plays him, Raoul Bushman, he passed away, I think, back in January through a
What?
skiing
No
accident.
kidding.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I
Okay.
don't know. They implied that he's dead in the show, so I don't know if they're going to bring him back in this season, or if this is the last that we'll see of him. Not a super important character in the grand scheme of Marvel, but a cool little nod to diehard fans of Moon Knight comics.
Yeah. Well, and I think he's definitely going to be back, right? I mean, they took the time to show him get away, and they also took the time to show us that he saw Marc in the suit. He saw the suit, the Moon Knight suit. So I don't think we've seen the last of him.
So he got away. I thought that he had died.
No, he got away. They like as soon as Marc teleported up to the top of the pyramid and was suddenly Moon Knight, they showed him being ushered off.
Oh, I thought that he was still fighting them. Moon Knight ran through and saved Layla, and then threw his Moon Knight dagger at him. I thought.
Did they? I didn't think so. I'll have to
I
go
could have
back and
sworn.
watch.
I guess I will too. Yeah, I thought maybe
Yeah.
I could be 100% wrong. That's what I thought, but there were so many people at that
This
point.
was a busy episode.
So many goons and thugs and all that a lot of them kind of looked alike. So
Right.
it probably could have just been a guy that looked like him. But I thought that there was an interaction and that Moon Knight had thrown his dagger right at his back.
I don't think so, but maybe.
Okay.
We'll find out.
We will indeed. Yeah, so this third identity that I talked about, Jake Lockley, it feels like we could be seeing him, but do you have any thoughts on a third identity? Have you thought of anything on that?
Well, I think that the most exciting thing is that the third identity begs the question, is there going to be a third suit? Are we going to see a different version of Moon Knight? We have Moon Knight and Mr. Knight.
That's a good point, because in the comics, Mr. Knight's not, from my understanding, is it this suit that he brings out? It's a suit that Mark Spector wears, and he sort of acts as a consultant for the police department, as a sort of off-duty detective, so to speak, that helps exchange information, and that's his way of concealing his identity, is wearing that suit. So that's my understanding. I'm not a diehard Moon Knight fan, but from the little research that I've done, that's what he appears to be. So it is weird to me that they're using that as Steven's suit, so to speak. It feels like they're really doing it for comedic effect more than anything. So I wouldn't bet on this third personality having a suit. And if he did, I don't know. I have no idea what to even imagine.
Yeah, same. I don't know. I don't when they first did the Mark blackout, I thought that it was Khonshu taking over. I don't think that's going to be the case, obviously, but it would be interesting if the third suit, so to speak, is just looks like Khonshu.
Okay, I could see that.
I'm
gonna hope that they don't do that. I don't like the idea. I don't even really know that if I like the idea of Steven having a suit that is this Mr. Knight character. I think that was probably my least favorite part of this episode when they're in that fight.
Really?
That fight
Okay.
was so well done. Where
Mhm.
that's really the first time that we've seen extended suit action, right?
True.
We got the very end of episode 1 was just a little bit of him fighting the jackal. And then the very end of episode 2, you see him chase a jackal. You get a little bit more,
Yeah.
but not full on combat. This was the first time we're actually seeing him in combat. We're seeing him get pierced with these sticks. He survives. We learn it has healing powers. He's got all these daggers. He's so acrobatic. We're really getting to see a full display of what Moon Knight can do. And right in the middle of it, he blacks out into Steven, and Steven is in the Mr. Knight suit. And then he's there for 2 seconds and then fades right back into Moon Knight. And to me, it was just an unnecessary comedic effect that added nothing to the scene.
Let me maybe help you stomach that a little bit, because I agree with you, but it is the first time that Steven takes over without Mark's permission. That's all I got. It's a little flimsy, but I think that is what's going to build their relationship moving forward, is that once Steven finds out that he's strong enough to take the body back, they're going to have to actively share it, right? Because they can't just be blacking out all day.
Fair, for sure. It feels like they could have done it elsewhere outside of this scene. It feels like that.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. But also it shows us what the suit can do. We've never really seen it heal mortal wounds before.
Right, but we didn't need Mr. Knight to pop in
not really.
to be shown
Not
that.
really.
I think, and you know, like earlier in the episode, they showed him blacking in and out without needing him here. So that by itself was accomplished. It wasn't needed here, in my opinion. True. That was the biggest thing. It's Marvel does this. They feel like they have these major moments where they have to insert comedy, and it works here and there. But if you're going to do it everywhere, it does wear thin a bit for me.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that should have been kept for the Avengers side of things, whereas this more dark, gruesome show could have had its day.
Yeah, and again, man, I don't mind comedy. I don't mind. It doesn't have to be as dark as the Batman, right? It doesn't have to be that. But pick your spots and do it with better precision, in my opinion. I don't think that we needed a comedy scene in the middle of a fight. The first display of what Moon Knight could really do.
I agree. I don't disagree at all. Yeah, I see that gripe.
Yeah, for sure. So I mentioned it earlier, where I had another theory about Mark's when they have that moment on the boat and he's reluctant to share really what happened
with Layla.
Yeah, or no, what happened? How he lost control of Steven coming in and out.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get anything else with his mom in this episode.
True.
So I'm wondering if maybe it feels like she's dead, right? It feels like she's not around. Let's assume she is. Let's say if she is dead, was that the thing that traumatized him to the point where he was no longer able to control his other identities popping in and out?
I don't know. I feel like we've never seen Mark in Steven's mom's apartment, other than reflections here and there. But
we know he's been in the apartment, though, because that's where he kept
because he has to get there.
And obviously they're the same body. So
right.
He's definitely
I'm just saying. I'm just saying we don't see Marc interact with his mom's place. You know, we don't see Marc go through her things and look at them longingly like, oh, my mom's dead, this is her thing. You know, we don't have any of that. All we have is Steven making unanswered phone calls to his mom. So we know that Steven doesn't know that his mom's dead if she's dead. I don't know. This whole rabbit hole is very hard to predict because we really have nothing here.
Well, it's been very subtle, but we have been given a few
Yeah,
things, right? Like you said, we've
right.
been given, Steven has been calling her to no answer. Layla mentioned in the last episode, oh, you and your mom are talking again. Didn't really get much else there. And now we have this where he's really reluctant to share. I think a moment that I think back to is from episode 2 when Layla goes to the apartment for the first time and they're sharing poetry and they're going over the hieroglyphics and the Egyptian lore and all that, where it seems that Steven is adopting these personalities from traces of Marc's memories of Layla. I wonder
Hmm.
if the mom thing is traces of Marc's memory of the mom.
Maybe Steven is a little bit more like Marc's mom than Marc is. Is that what you're saying?
That could be. Might could
Yeah.
be.
Hmm. Well, that begs the question then, what's with this third identity and where does it stem from?
Did the third identity murder the mom?
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. We need a flashback so badly.
We're gonna get it though. I don't like it's 6 episodes. I don't want him to give us everything at the beginning, right? We got to have something to
Yeah.
look forward to and speculate
Yeah.
on. So, I think that this next episode, I said this last week, but it feels like we're due a point now that Khonshu is gone in prison for the time being. There has to be a new dilemma for Marc and Steven to deal with before we can get to the point where we're freeing Khonshu. So
Yeah.
it would lead you to believe that we are going to get to the point where they start to explore that a little bit, right? Where this is the halfway point. We're going into episode 4. Typically in these Marvel shows, episode 5 ends in a way that really sets up that last episode. So it feels like episode 5 is going to be where Ammit is freed and Marc and Steven have to maybe come back together with Layla so that they can convince the gods to free Khonshu so that episode
Right.
6 we can get our final battle. So it feels like episode 4 has to be the episode where there's chaos and dissension and people splitting up so that they can come back together at the end.
So no suit, you think, for all of episode 4?
Well, I mean, Khonshu's imprisoned. I mean, they're not going to free him the
Yeah.
next episode, so I don't see how
Yeah, I
they
think
would have him.
that's a bit of a bummer.
A
Hopefully
little
they'll
bit.
yeah, maybe they'll I wonder if they'll take this as an opportunity to set something up for just like the action of the episode. If they did like a heist or I don't know, something other than a beat 'em up. Do you know what I mean? Because it
Sure.
feels like I know we're in the realm of Marvel here and that's kind of their whole shtick, but like they could do something, they could do some interesting sounds weird to say, but team building. They could do a lot of setup in this next one that isn't fighting. Do you know what I mean? That is just as interesting. I don't know what that is, but they maybe next time's the flashback episode.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying is I think that this is the
Yeah,
episode that really where we're going to see maybe some introspection for Marc and Steven. I think that
yeah,
we might get the revelation of what happened to Layla's dad. I think that episode 4, we are going to see something along those lines where she is no longer a part of this team, and so that she has to come back somewhere down the line towards
yeah.
the end of the show. From what I've heard from people, episode 4 is supposed to be sort of the craziest one, the one that really blows this show open. So it feels like to me that yeah, we're going to get some wild revelations here,
Cool.
and I do think that we'll see a point where Steven and Marc have to sort of step back and say, or figure this out. This whole we got to figure out who this third identity is. We got to figure out how to share this body, who is doing what, because now we're at the point where he's unconscious, but Steven is in control of the body. Is Marc?
Right.
How is Marc going to get control back, and how are they going to figure
Yeah,
out how to get Khonshu out?
yeah. And both both teams, both Marc / Steven and Layla, and also Arthur Harrow and his whole cult, they all know where Ahmet's tomb is now. So it's a bit of a race.
It is. Which that's probably right there. Your heist or
Yeah,
your
I guess so.
intrigue is the race to Ahmet's tomb.
Yeah, I think we're gearing up for probably the best episode so far for episode 4, right?
I
I
think
mean,
so. Yeah, it
gotta
really
be.
does feel like that. It feels like that. It feels like the show that every week has been a little bit better than the last week. We're getting a little bit more information. We're also getting some other things to speculate on, right? We this is the first time we've really had full evidence of a third personality. We don't know what the connection between Marc and Layla's father situation is. We're still figuring out this mom thing, if there's even anything there. We all could be speculating on nothing for all we know. It could be another
Maybe.
Mephisto, but uh, yeah, I'm really looking forward to where the show's going. And let me ask you this too, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Do you think that we'll see a point where the gods have to sort of come together near the end?
I'll tell you this. I did not expect to see gods other than Ammit and Khonshu. I had no idea we were going to see all these avatars of gods hold court in a pyramid at Giza. Like it's already like the Egyptian lore aspect of this show has already far surpassed my expectations. Reevaluating it now, I feel like yes, they do have to. They have to come back for something. I don't know if it's just as simple as them releasing Khonshu or if it's them condemning Ammit, but yeah, I think that they're definitely going to be involved in the either final showdown or the aftermath.
Well, I think we can guarantee that we're going to see them again for the releasing of Khonshu.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there is some sort of a condemnation of Ahmet, because I don't know. I mean, do we get to a point where it's Moon Knight versus Harrow's Ahmet, whatever that's going to look like? Is it just this fight, or is Moon Knight going to have the help of these gods, one way or the other? It
I
seems like we
mean,
haven't seen the end of them.
yeah, I would expect if they are available to help that they'll have to, right? Because I mean, we don't know. I don't, not that I can't remember if they said why they killed Ammit, or if it was just because of the killing innocent things before they do their bad deeds.
I think that was implied. I don't think they actually specifically
Yeah.
mentioned it, but I think that's implied.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was thinking about it earlier. I mean, they took the time to banish Khonshu, but they killed Ammit, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
Ammit's crimes are far more serious. So, I
Yeah.
think that if Ammit is awakened and the other gods are still around, they have to help, right?
Yeah, and I'd like to see that. And here's a fun
Mm-hmm.
fact for you, actually. Not much else to it, but it's pretty interesting. So I don't know if I'm saying the name right, but Hathor, the god from the woman that actually is talking to Marc, that they actually took some time to put some focus on her. She not only did she interact with him before, but after that whole trial. So it does seem like they're saying, hey, there's something here in the comics. Hathor, or in the comics she's called Hathor Sekhmet. I don't know if I'm saying that right. She
Okay.
takes a feline appearance and is a sibling of Wakanda's panther god Bast, as is
Whoa.
Khonshu himself. And then Hathor Sekhmet ultimately becomes or assumes the mantle of lion god in Wakanda, becoming an enemy of Black Panther.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That seems like something that if they're going to set up, it's going to be much further down the road.
For sure. It's
Like a
not.
lot, yeah,
She's not popping up in Black Panther 2.
for sure.
Maybe a post credits little like nod or something. But I mean, yeah, she's not going to be like a main character.
I would guess that if they do anything with that lore, it'll be a nod and not fully committed. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. No, for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
I thought it was
just
interesting
that would
though
be
when I
my
saw
guess.
that, because they put so much focus into this character and gave her quite a few lines. Right. Like
Mhm.
I don't remember the one guy that seemed like to be was that Osiris?
The main one that
Yeah.
like turned his fingers and blocked Mark's
Yeah.
punch. Yeah,
Yeah.
hmm
So like
or
obviously
Khonshu's punch.
he got the most because he's sort of the main god, but she got a lot of time and none of the other ones really did. So I thought it was interesting that they chose to spotlight her. It would lead me to believe that maybe this isn't the last we'll see of her.
Was Ra absent from this?
Ra was not there. They had the Hathor, Horus, Tefnut, Osiris, and Isis.
I wonder why they wouldn't have Ra.
Funnily enough, if you remember the first episode where he said this poster only has 5 gods, there are 9. Well, here we have 5 gods.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's something to that.
That's kind of interesting. I'll have to go back and watch that scene again.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this was a good episode. I think that I'm really looking forward to where they're going with this. I think I'm still at the point where I'm not in love with Moon Knight. I'll be really curious to see where it ranks among the other Marvel shows and movies once the whole thing is out. But I am into the character. I think Moon Knight looks awesome. And I'm really excited to see him interact with Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Daredevil, and Echo, and eventually Punisher, and eventually Wolverine. I think that the possibilities are endless. And it's a very welcome addition to the MCU, even if it may not be quite as perfect as I was hoping.
I would say where I'm at with the show right now, after the first episode, I was interested and a little bit nervous, and now I am interested and excited. I'm in it. I think it's going to wrap up real good. I think we're going to be very pleased when this show's over.
For sure. It's Marvel. They don't really miss. They're really ramping us up for the second half of this show. We'll see where they take us, but I'm excited for it. So I think those are the only notes I have. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Sweet. Well, folks, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to follow along with us on our social media, the links are in the show notes below. If you're on the YouTube, make sure to leave a like, hit subscribe, and click the bell for further content. Until next time, folks, when we talk to you about Moon Knight episode 4, keep on keeping on.
And we'll catch you later.